Her family rejected her for being ugly, until the cowboy said, "She is my woman now." Leela, with her soft brown eyes, simple smile and plain looks, often felt invisible among her siblings, who were charming and beautiful in ways that the townspeople admired. Her parents never meant to hurt her deliberately, but their constant comparisons left deep marks on her heart. Every morning, Leela would look into the mirror and try to convince herself that she was enough, that she was worthy of love and respect. But when she heard her mother sigh over her older sister's perfect hair or her father compliment a neighbor's child on their appearance, doubt crept in. She began to believe she was unworthy, that her place in the family was somewhere behind the brighter lights of others' beauty. School was no easier. Classmates often whispered behind her back, teasing her about the way she looked or the clothes she wore. Leela tried to ignore them, burying herself in books and spending her free time exploring the small fields and streams around the town. Nature became her refuge. She would walk for hours, listening to the birds and the soft rustle of leaves, feeling, at least there, that she could exist without judgment. Sometimes, she imagined a world far away where people valued hearts over appearances. She dreamed of someone who could see her for who she truly was, someone who would not just look at her face but notice the kindness she carried quietly in her soul. One summer morning, Leela walked into the town market, a small square with dusty paths and wooden stalls. Vendors shouted about their fruits and vegetables, and children ran past playing games. Leela's eyes were on the ground, avoiding the usual stares and whispers. That's when she noticed a tall man leaning against a fence, a cowboy hat shading his face, his boots dusty from travel. He seemed different from the others in the town. There was a quiet confidence about him, and when he smiled, it was genuine, warm, and easy. Leela felt something stir in her chest, something she had never felt before, curiosity and a little spark of hope. The cowboy, whose name was Jake, noticed her as well. There was something in Leela's shy demeanor that caught his attention. While others in the town were busy judging or gossiping, Jake simply looked at her with interest, a friendly and honest gaze. Their first conversation was simple. He asked her about the fresh apples at a nearby stall, and she hesitated at first but then told him which ones were the sweetest. He thanked her with a smile, and for the first time, Leela felt seen, truly seen, not just by a friend, but by someone who seemed to appreciate her presence without questioning her worth. Over the next few days, Jake kept crossing paths with Leela. Sometimes it was by the river where she liked to sit and sketch the flowers and the flowing water. Other times it was at the market or at the small library where she loved to read. Each encounter was brief, yet meaningful. He never judged her, never made fun of her, and always spoke with respect. He listened when she spoke and remembered the little details she shared. For Leela, who had grown up used to being overlooked, this felt like a miracle. But even as hope blossomed in her heart, fear lingered. Past rejections had left scars that were not easily healed. She questioned why someone like Jake would notice her, a girl considered plain by everyone she knew. She wondered if it was just a fleeting fancy or if he truly saw her for who she was. Leela tried to keep her distance, unsure how to handle these new feelings that both excited and terrified her. One afternoon, Jake invited her to help him with a simple task. He was fixing a broken fence on the edge of the town, and he thought Leela's knowledge of the tools from her grandfather's old shed might be useful. Hesitant at first, she agreed. As they worked together, she realized that his presence made her feel calm and confident. He encouraged her gently, praising her cleverness in solving small problems, and treated her as an equal, not someone to pity or overlook. She laughed more than she had in years, and the sound startled her. It was a pure, unguarded laugh that she had almost forgotten she could make. Word of their growing friendship began to spread through the town. Some people whispered, trying to understand why Jake, a stranger and a respected cowboy, would spend so much time with Leela. The comments could have embarrassed her, but Leela found that she no longer cared as much about the town's judgment. Jake's genuine interest gave her a sense of worth that she had never experienced before. Slowly, she began to hold her head higher, smile more freely, and speak with more confidence. Despite these small triumphs, her family's criticism still weighed heavily. Her mother would sigh when she noticed the dirt on Leela's dress after helping Jake with the fence. Her father would make comments about how she could never be like her older sister, and her siblings would tease her lightly, unaware of how much their words stung. Leela began to realize that she could not rely on their approval for her happiness. She had to find strength within herself, to believe that she deserved love and respect, whether or not her family or the town recognized it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Leela and Jake sat on the fence, looking at the open fields beyond the town. She felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of hope and fear. Jake spoke softly, asking her about her dreams, her favorite memories, and the small joys she had tucked away. Leela shared her thoughts, hesitating at first but slowly opening up. It was a revelation to her. Someone cared about her thoughts, her feelings, and her life, without asking her to change a thing. That night, as Leela walked home under the twinkling stars, she thought about Jake and the strange, wonderful feeling that had begun to grow inside her. She realized that perhaps life could be more than the narrow world she had known, filled with judgment and comparison. Maybe there was room for someone like her to be loved, to be cherished, and to be seen as worthy. But there was still uncertainty. How would her family react if they knew how close she was becoming to Jake? Would they ever understand that love was not about beauty but about heart? The next day, she saw Jake waiting for her by the market again. He greeted her with a smile, his eyes full of warmth and sincerity. Leela felt a flutter of hope and courage. She knew that this was the beginning of something important, not just a friendship, but perhaps a bond that could change her life forever. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that she might be enough, just as she was. By the time the sun began to set again, Leela realized that her life had already started to shift. The fear and rejection that had weighed her down were still there, but they were beginning to feel lighter. Jake's presence reminded her that there were people in the world who could see the beauty in someone like her, and that her worth was not determined by the opinions of others. The thought filled her with a quiet strength, a determination to face the challenges ahead with courage. As the night settled over the town, Leela went to bed with a heart full of hope. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and that was a beginning she had never dared to imagine. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a tiny spark that maybe, just maybe, life could be kinder and fuller than she had ever thought possible. The days that followed brought a quiet change in Leela's life. She no longer felt as invisible as she once had. With Jake by her side, even in small moments, she felt a courage that had long been buried. They would meet at the edge of town, sometimes helping with chores, sometimes simply sitting by the river, sharing stories about their lives. Jake never rushed her, never judged her, and never expected her to be anyone other than herself. With every conversation, Leela's heart grew lighter, and her confidence began to bloom like a flower reaching for the sun. One afternoon, as they walked along a dusty trail surrounded by fields of tall grass, Jake asked Leela what her dreams were. She hesitated, unsure if she deserved to have any. But his gentle smile encouraged her, and slowly she spoke. She told him about the books she loved, the sketches she secretly drew, and the small joys she had always kept to herself. Jake listened with genuine interest, praising her creativity and intelligence. For the first time, Leela felt proud of her talents rather than ashamed of her appearance. Their friendship deepened, and soon people in the town began to notice. Some whispered, others stared, but Jake's unwavering respect for Leela stood as a quiet challenge to their judgments. The local market vendors would nod at her when she walked past, and a few children started to greet her warmly, curious about the girl who seemed different from before. Leela felt a sense of belonging that had always eluded her. For the first time, she realized that the opinions of others, even her family, did not define her worth. Despite the growing admiration from the townspeople, her family's opinions still cast a shadow. Her mother would frown when she saw Leela wearing clothes that had been dusted with dirt from working with Jake, and her father occasionally muttered comments about her sister's beauty compared to hers. Leela tried to ignore them, focusing instead on the support she received from Jake. She had learned that love and respect could come from unexpected places, and that sometimes family could be slow to recognize the value of a person. One evening, a small gathering was held at the town hall, celebrating the harvest season. Leela's family attended, and she came along, knowing Jake would be there as well. She felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. As she entered the hall, whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Her family's eyes darted toward her, some with disapproval, some with curiosity. But when Jake appeared beside her, standing tall with his hat in hand, a calm confidence radiated from him. Leela realized that she no longer felt the same fear she used to. With Jake by her side, she felt empowered, strong, and valued. During the gathering, townspeople approached them, some with friendly questions, others with skeptical looks. Jake spoke proudly of Leela's talents and her kindness, never allowing a hint of ridicule to reach her. Slowly, the crowd began to see what he saw: a young woman with a heart full of courage, a mind full of ideas, and a spirit that shone brighter than any outward beauty could ever reveal. Leela felt a warmth in her chest as she realized that the world could see her in a new light, if only someone believed enough to show it. The pivotal moment came when her family, uncomfortable with the attention and with Jake's constant presence, decided to confront her. Her father, with a tone of disbelief, asked why she spent so much time with the cowboy, implying that she was overstepping her place. Her mother's expression was a mixture of worry and disapproval. Leela felt a familiar wave of doubt, the old insecurities threatening to resurface. But then Jake placed a hand gently on her shoulder, looking her in the eyes. "She is my woman now," he said, his voice calm but firm. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward Leela and Jake. There was no arrogance in his statement, only love, respect, and certainty. For a moment, Leela felt the weight of years of rejection lift from her shoulders. She saw the surprise on her family's faces and realized that she had found a kind of love that could not be shaken by judgment or criticism. Her family's initial shock slowly gave way to reflection. They began to see that Leela's value was not measured by her looks, but by the kindness, intelligence, and strength she had cultivated quietly over the years. Her siblings, once dismissive, noticed the confidence she carried now and the genuine happiness in her eyes. Her mother, though slow to admit it, recognized the warmth and support Jake brought into Leela's life. It was not immediate acceptance, but it was a start, a small step toward understanding and respect. In the weeks that followed, Leela's life continued to transform. She and Jake spent their days together, learning from each other, sharing laughter and quiet moments. They worked on small projects, helped neighbors, and explored the surrounding countryside. Leela discovered a joy in living that she had never known before. She no longer hid from the world but embraced it with curiosity and courage. Her family, seeing her happiness, began to soften, and some even joined in small activities with her, starting to appreciate the person she had always been. Leela also realized something profound about herself. She no longer needed constant approval to feel worthy. The love she received from Jake and the slowly changing respect from her family taught her that self-worth comes from within. She began to pursue her passions more openly, drawing, reading, and even teaching local children about the natural world she loved so much. Each day brought a new opportunity to embrace life fully, without fear or shame. The town, which once barely noticed her, now regarded Leela with a mixture of admiration and respect. She became known for her gentle courage and unwavering kindness. People came to her for advice, for help with tasks, or simply to share a friendly conversation. Leela found that when someone is true to themselves, their light cannot be hidden for long. Jake continued to stand beside her, not as someone trying to change her, but as a partner who celebrated her for exactly who she was. As the seasons changed, Leela looked back on the years of rejection and doubt with a sense of gratitude. The pain she had experienced had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. She understood that beauty was not a measure of one's worth, and that love could come when least expected, from someone who valued the heart above all else. She felt a sense of peace she had never known, and a quiet confidence that whatever challenges lay ahead, she could face them with courage. One sunny afternoon, Leela and Jake sat together on a hill overlooking the town. The wind rustled the grass around them, carrying with it the soft sounds of life, the distant chatter of townspeople, the laughter of children, and the gentle song of birds. Leela rested her head on Jake's shoulder, feeling a warmth that went beyond the physical. It was the warmth of acceptance, of love, and of being truly seen. She smiled, knowing that her journey had been difficult, but it had led her to a life filled with hope, joy, and purpose. In that moment, Leela realized that she had grown stronger, not in spite of the rejection she had faced, but because of it. She had discovered resilience, courage, and the power of true love. She knew that the world could be harsh, but it could also be kind, and that sometimes the right person could help reveal the beauty that had always existed within. Her family, though not perfect, had begun to see her differently. They were learning to appreciate the person she had always been, and even if they never fully understood the depth of her worth, Leela no longer depended on their recognition to feel complete. She had found love, respect, and happiness, and that was enough. The story of Leela and Jake spread quietly through the town, not as gossip, but as a reminder that true beauty and love are not measured by appearances, but by heart, courage, and kindness. Leela's journey was not just about being loved by someone else, but about discovering her own strength, embracing her worth, and finding joy in being herself. With Jake by her side and her own newfound confidence, she knew that her life had transformed in ways she had never imagined possible. And so, in a small town where whispers once followed her, Leela now walked with her head held high, a heart full of hope, and a life filled with love. The cowboy had seen what others could not, and in doing so, he had helped her see it too. Together they faced the world, not as strangers judged by appearances, but as partners bound by respect, admiration, and a love that could not be shaken. Leela finally understood that being true to herself was the greatest triumph of all, and that sometimes, the world's harshest judgments are simply the beginning of a story that ends with joy, courage, and the discovery of one's own worth.